make digits, I'm on stack chicken like what it's gon' be. Crew in the cut, hey, you want us forever.
A few moments later.
Love is love. Love is love. Bend dope with the switch again.
Hey, my name is William Douglas and I am the owner of WilliamDouglasCo. This is my shop. I wanted to give you guys kind of a shop tour to get this YouTube thing going off. We've been wanting to put together a YouTube channel to help with people who might be wanting to do woodworking and don't have a lot of space. We have a very, very small shop here. 200 square feet is what we were limited to. We're in the middle of a city. We've had a lot of challenges, but we really, really love what we do and we wanted to make it work. We have some great people here and we've found ways around all the obstacles of limited space, and we've been able to create a successful furniture making company here in this tiny shop, and we're going to talk about how we did some of that. Here in Phoenix, Arizona, I am limited to 200 square feet of additional space within my backyard because of lot coverage restrictions. So given that I had a 200 square foot limitation, I built this shop based around that and what my necessary tools were, what I absolutely had to have, and I had to get creative with how I placed everything. When I originally designed this space, I envisioned having dust collection under the ground. So I did a skid foundation and I wanted to have all of my dust ports and all of my power underground so it was very clean. That ended up not really being practical because every time I needed to use the tools, majority of the time I had to move them out. So it was never really practical to have holes in the floor with dust collection. So we scrapped that idea. One thing that was really important was we need to be able to get our equipment out very easily. So we made a deck flush with the floor of the shop so that there is no threshold to get out of, and we can just wheel in and out. And that is also on a torsion box type setup. It's called a skid foundation, and the reason we did it this way is because if this was a concrete slab and I tried to make the concrete slab flush with the floor of my shop, we're gonna have issues with a lot of rain wanting to run into there. So with it on a skid foundation, and we have a very deep hole beneath this, and it's all resting on pressure treated lumber, all the water just runs down into that. So this gave us the ability to have a very easy transition in and out of the shop. Another really important thing was we needed to have a ton of space to get large furniture out. We do pretty large stuff here. We just finished up a king size bed. It was massive, it did not come apart. So we need to have a lot of room for that. So we have 2 4-foot by 8-foot doors. So we have a total of 8 feet of opening in width by 8 feet in height. So we made sure to address that right from the beginning of the framing of this place so that we have plenty of room to get in and out with furniture and equipment. If I had to do it again, the foundation of the shop would be concrete for sure. And here's one issue that we face, rolling the equipment in and out. I'm gonna end up having to redo this. We actually might pull this back and actually redo this in concrete because we had some heavy equipment fall through the floor.
Hey Ron.
Hey Billy.
So don't do a skid foundation if you have heavy equipment. We live in Phoenix, Arizona, and our summers get really, really hot. So being in here in the summer is unbearable unless you have insulation and air conditioning. Air conditioning is also better for wood because of humidity reasons. We insulated our walls and we put plywood on the exterior, so we have a plywood substrate over the insulation. We insulated the ceiling as well, and we installed a air conditioning and heating split system, and we run that all summer. That was absolutely necessary for how hot it gets here in the summertime, and we couldn't work in here without it. Being in only a 200 square foot footprint, we had to get really creative with what we had in here and how we mounted everything to the walls because we need as much floor space as we can possibly get. So even things like our compressor are mounted up high. We made sure to get that up high enough to where we could actually walk under it if we needed to. We ran all of our lines up here, and we have our air mounted to the ceiling, so that can also get out of the way, our air hose and a power as well. We did racking on the walls. We just welded that up, simple angle iron mounted or welded to flat bar. We keep wood in here that we're working on currently. So after we get done milling something and we want to sticker it for a little while and let it kind of acclimate to the climate here, we'll sticker it up here. And that's stuff that we have currently in motion. So this is actually a workbench that we're working on. This is going to be the top for the workbench that we're making for us. Okay, so clamps can be very cumbersome and they can get in the way, they can be very messy. So it's absolutely necessary for us and our space to have very organized clamp system. So up here you can see we made a simple box to house all of our Bessie clamp, and we use those all the time, and when we're done using our clamps, they go right back up there, very organized, out of the way, very neat, and that is something that I think is absolutely necessary for a small shop. If you own any Festool, I'm sure that you have the Festool track saw, and the track can be kind of in the way sometimes, so we actually stuff the track up here, and we pull these tracks down whenever we need to use them. We got a long one here, we got a short one here, and when we're done using them, we just store them up there, up out of the way. They're safe because you know how if those fall on edge, the rubber liner gets ruined and you have to replace that very frequently if they're not taken care of. So this gets them up out of the way and it keeps everything safe with that. Over here, this is my beautiful hand tool wall. So this is where I keep all of our stuff like hand planes, chisels, hand saws, dovetail saws, draw bores, rasps, hand routers, all that stuff goes here for now. Some of this space is going to change. A lot of this space isn't complete yet. We have a lot of plans on adding drawers and storage and things like that. We also are in the process of making a really nice split top Rubo workbench, which is right here. This is the base for it. And once that's complete, the Festool MFT table is going to be removed from here, and this will be where we do most of our work. This here is the Festool area. So most woodworkers know a lot about Festool, and some people think they're overrated. Some people think they're overpriced. Some people live and die by them. I think that Festool has its place in any shop. There's some things that they've done that are really innovative and really necessary for workflow and for precision. Things like the domino and the track saw I think are absolutely necessary. There are other brands, but those are some tools that I find very, very necessary. And the fact that all of these work in unison with a heap of vacuum I think is fantastic, because a lot of times we end up in a home where we need to resand a top and refinish a top, and that system is just very, very, very good for that. There's very little dust. The customers are always blown away by it. So Festool is very important here in our shop. We love them, and there's some of their tools that we can definitely do without, but these are the ones that we definitely want to have. Okay, over here is kind of still a work in progress, but this is going to be our sharpening station. We got some stuff to figure out here, but we got the Tormek. This is how we sharpen all of our chisels, all of our plane blades, and then we got a little bit of sharpening stones and stuff that we touch up on. This will look very different soon, but right now this is the system that we choose to use because it's fast and it's very accurate. Over here in the corner is where I keep what I call, it's a bit of the ugly section. This is just like the construction stuff that you would usually take on site or something. I don't use these tools a lot. I don't love to look at them. I like to have a beautiful workspace, so I kind of have corners where I keep stuff that is a bit unsightly. So these are just some of those power tools that we use more on job sites and stuff. When I was designing this space for all of my tools, there was no way that I was going to fit all of them. So I had to decide what was going to go up. I don't have a lot of room up. I couldn't put a lot up there, but it had to be something very specific. And a CNC machine is what I ended up putting up there because of the fact that it does not have an in-feed or out-feed table. All of the other tools have an in-feed and an out-feed. The bandsaw does, even the drill press does, especially all the other tools. So that specific tool was perfect to go up. So when I built this system, I made sure that I had all of the dimensions of the CNC machine and that it would fit up there and I would have room to walk on the backside. Let's go check it out. So when I originally designed this, I planned on doing a librarian ladder that can just slide off of those rails and it can just go back and forth. I ended up never doing that because I felt like it was always just going to be in the way. I ended up just using a 6-foot ladder to get up and down. All right, this is what we like to call the attic. It's not the most ideal. I got this thing in the way. I got to duck under. It's helpful that I'm fairly skinny and I can get up here pretty easily. But the reason that I have it like this is for a very good reason. I have my computer on this stand, and this is where the headstock of my lathe is, and this is where my spindle parks. I oriented this in a way to where I can very easily drive the machine manually, and all the axes match up with the way the computer is laid out. So that's why it was important for me to have this here. I don't have any space to walk beyond this machine. All of my walking space is just to the end of this machine. So I made sure when I designed this building that I would have 6 feet of height on this end of the machine. So all my walking is here. I have a dust collection system mounted to the wall here, and dust collection goes here. Even with dust collection though, you find with CNC machines that you get a lot of fine particles. So I did install a dust air filtration system, which is mounted right here next to the CNC machine, so it helps pick up a lot of that fine dust. I felt like that was pretty necessary with this machine. All right, so this specific machine it's a great starter CNC machine. If you're on the fence, you can find them used. This machine was about $15,000. I got a loan for it. Obviously, I didn't have that kind of cash laying around, but this specific machine, it's got a 27-inch by 72-inch working bed. They call it the Artisan, primarily because it does XYZ, which is standard, and it also has a lathe attachment. So it has a rotary attachment. It does spindles as well. So you can remove the bed and you can actually do tapered spindle legs very, very fast and very repeatable. And you can get really creative and do things like baseball bats, which we've done. You can do crazy rope twist spindle legs, a lot of stuff, and you have that full 72 inches of room. This machine, I actually don't think they make this one anymore, but they make very similar ones to it that are really reasonably priced. They're trying to get CNC machines into more of your shops at home, not necessarily commercial anymore. So there is definitely a market coming, and it's something that should be taken advantage of because they are indispensable when it comes to efficiency. I do a lot of mid-century modern furniture, and a lot of our stuff has crazy tapered legs that turn, and I can easily do those the old-fashioned way on a piece of MDF. I can stencil it out, cut it out on the bandsaw, fine-tune it with a sander, and create myself a template, and then I can come back and cut my hardwood close to that and then finish off on the table router. That's all great, and we all know how to do that, but with a CNC machine, we can expedite that process like significantly. So you can, like, if you want to do this and actually make some money, and it's not just a hobby, a CNC machine is pretty much indispensable. You need that machine, at least a small enough one, to be able to utilize for things like table legs or any kind of moving parts where you need to replicate pieces quickly. It's pretty simple. They've made it easier now, so you don't need to have any kind of crazy degree to figure out how to use it. And there's a lot of good brands out there, and you can really expedite your work and get things done a lot faster if you do have a CNC machine. So one thing we should touch down on is power.
Engines are overloading. More power. We're superheating.
So being in our backyard with a 100 amp sub panel running all these tools, we don't have the ability to power all of them at the same time, which I assume a lot of other people with small shops have run into. So what we did to combat that is we have a few 220s. One of them is always hooked up to the dust collector, and the other one we actually have to go back and forth between the table saw, the planer, and the jointer. Not a big deal if it's just you in your shop. If you have multiple people working with you, you just have to plan for it a little bit. You have to plan your day based on who needs the 220 and who can be doing something different with the 110s. And we have had 3 people working at once, and we have always been able to kind of shuffle around our workflow, and we're able to accommodate that, and it hasn't caused a lot of problems with us. We only have enough room in our shop for our equipment at the end of the day. So when we're working on a project, we had to figure out how we can address that, because if we have a dining table that we're working on, we don't have room to keep the dining table in there while it's being built, as well as the equipment, and we can't keep our equipment outside because of weather and stuff like that. So what we did was we bought a tent and we put it next to the shop, and that's where we keep lumber for projects that we're working on currently, and that's where we will put furniture that is not complete yet. As soon as we are done with the piece of furniture, if it doesn't go directly to the owner of the furniture, we bring it to our air-conditioned storage facility. So this tent is 11 foot by 12 foot by 8 feet high, and we are able to store a lot of our lumber in here. Sometimes we have longer lumber and then we have to turn it diagonally, but this space has been really helpful for us, from storing wood, as you can see, to furniture. We've got some sawhorses that we put temporary tops on here, so if we're doing any kind of big glue up or something, we can work right out of here. In the summertime, we open up the back side of the tent and we have the air blowing in. We can get sanding done in here, we can get filling done in here, especially if we're doing something like fiberglass resin where smell is an issue, or sometimes a lot of finish in a day can start to get to you. So it's well ventilated, and it's a lot of extra space that didn't require me building another structure, which I wouldn't have been able to do anyway because of limitations by the city. One thing that we had to address was in the summertime, it gets really hot on the deck. When we wheel our tools out on the deck and we are jointing or planing all day, we're out here getting sunburnt. So I went ahead and put up a shade sail from corner to corner. Got that on Amazon. It was relatively affordable and I was able to put it up myself. I just attached 3 points from the structure that I built to my house, and then I put in the 4th point of attachment was just a piece of steel that I poured a footer into the ground, canted it back a bit so the pressure from the tension from the shade sail pulling wouldn't pull it in, so it kind of just pulled it level. So that thing has been pretty amazing and very helpful for us in the summertime. This being in my backyard, our side gate is too narrow for most of our furniture and a lot of our lumber to come through, so we actually use alley access. There's been some times where we've had to turn things on their side and it's been hard to get things in and out of here because it's not a very wide gate, but we've always managed. This is our alley. So most of the time when we're about to go do an install or we're loading up a piece of furniture, we come down the alley right here, park the truck here, come out with our furniture, get it loaded up and drive straight out. We've utilized the space to the best of our ability and we've made it work. It's not the most ideal, it does come with some downfalls, but we've always been able to make it work, and we just want to encourage that. Like, you can do a lot with a little. Okay, so we've covered the 200 square foot structure, we've covered the deck, the overhead shade sail, and our tent for stuff that we're working on now. We've really utilized this space to its full potential, but there's still not quite enough room for finished projects that are waiting to be installed, and we need to start on a new project. So what we had to do was we had to decide whether we want to get a shop, which we've had in the past, and overhead is very expensive. When you consider everything like electricity, insurance, the rent itself, and all that stuff. So instead of going that route, we found an air-conditioned storage unit nearby, and it is probably 1/10 of the cost of what it cost us to run a shop in the past. So it's a 25 foot by 10 foot wide storage unit. It's all climate controlled, and when we are finished with the project or we want to pre-order lumber, we have it sent there and we load it up and we stack it on some storage racks in there, and we store our furniture in there for things that are complete that we don't want the climate to ruin. So that concludes our shop tour. Hope you liked it. If you have any questions, please let us know. We'll do our best to answer them pretty quickly. If there's anything else you'd like to see, let us know. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe, and we appreciate you watching.